Welcome, Karen. Thanks again for being here.
The full canvas was delivered to your offices yesterday with the CD of all the information and delivered to the clerk. The clerk has the full. Yours is a synopsis of the election, and you'll find that we had total ballots cast of 630,831. We had, on election day, there were 44,513 that went to the polling place, early ballots of 586,297, and provisionals, we had 1640, 1276, which were counted. And the math on that comes out to about a little over 90% of the people voted by mail, as they usually do, and the rest came to the polls.
So it was a little higher, I think last time it was 85 or 87%?
Yeah, usually 85, 87 is in the general election, but as a standalone like this, we had it went like silk. We had very few incidents at all. They were just garden variety, and people got in and they got out and they voted and we got it tabulated. Provided that you approve this canvass, we will be asking the clerk for a certificate and taking it out to the Secretary of State. They will be canvassing, I believe, on Thursday instead of Friday.
How did the poll books work? I mean, did that go smooth as silk too? Now that we have, voting centers, and we're going to have a whole bunch more for the next upcoming election, right?
Mr. Chairman, the e-poll books were excellent. We will not be having vote centers again.
Right.
That is not something we are set up to do. Because these two were single shot issues, we were able to do it for this time. As we move into the primary and we're well into that work, we will have 724 individual precincts that are precinct bound. And those people from that precinct will go to that polling place. We are very, very few that are new. Like in Queen Creek, there's a new library out there that we're going to use. But these are all justice pre-cleared from 2010. We continue to go to the polling places that we have used in the past, and for familiarity of the area. So we're well into getting all of that together, and then each household that has a registered voter, no matter what party in the primary, if they've gotten their Peeble ballot, then we don't send them one, because that's confusing. Did you get my ballot or not? But if you don't have somebody in that party that is Peeble, we send them a sample ballot. And in fact, right on the front, it tells you where your polling place is and what room in the polling place. And sometimes we can manage a little map to get there, but that'll be very, very different. Those 724 will be replicated for the general. So we don't enjoy a big turnout for the primary, but we do expect an inordinate amount of folks coming out for the general in a presidential year, and we anticipate that will work.
Okay, great. Any questions? Steve?
Mr. Chairman, I like the idea of the poll books, and I know there was a brief discussion earlier about a possible technology investment, because I really do see the e-poll books being used at some time, maybe in the future, on a primary and general election. I think kind of it's the way of the future, and we're going to see more of these vote centers, which I think are good, because you eliminate the people going to the wrong polling places. If you look, what was it? I was looking at the numbers of those that, for whatever reason, were not counted. But you eliminate that. I guess, do you foresee, Karen, maybe in the future, even, I know at these vote centers we didn't have ballot on demand, but don't you foresee in the future perhaps we having the technology? Hopefully we'd be able to have the money there to be able to have this type of technology, and where it can be used in a primary and general election, and have a full-blown election using the e-poll books.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Gallardo, I should point out that the e-poll books will always be used in all of these upcoming elections. And instead of just having one person with a paper book at a cost of about $500,000 countywide, we will have the 2 e-poll books in each of these polling places,
Oh.
so that we can get the people through the line faster. And so we think that will help. At some point down the line, the issue is this time there was one ballot style,
Okay.
and it didn't matter where you were. That was the issue. So I think that the technology down the road in a few years will offer itself to do a number of things, not only ballot on demand, but how to count that ballot. That's one of the driving issues as well. But we see the e-poll books being a big cost savings to the county and being a big help to the voters going through. Because remember, in the primary, other than the Libertarian Party, who has once again closed their doors, the independents can pick any ballot they want. And we're getting ready right now to send out the 90-day notices. And what that means is that people get, if they're on the permanent early ballot, they get a notice saying this is, are you sure you're going to be here, for the ones that leave during the primary season. But for those that are independent, it says, we need to know which ballot you want. And they mark that and send it back in. They can call, they can email us, but we do need to know which ballot that they want. But they're not excluded. No one can vote in the Libertarian election except the Libertarians. But other than that, so we're working aggressively on that right now.
And Karen, Mr. Chairman, and I got to bring this up. I know that at the beginning there was a small error made on the ballot on the Spanish side. How was that? I know there was a remedy. Can you kind of walk us through what that remedy was? And was there any reports of anyone being confused, that sort of stuff?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, there was an error not in the ballot language. It was in the title up at the top, not in the ballot language. And as I'm sure remember, we called your office first, and we did have 2 entities that we were involved with at your suggestion. One was the firefighters, and the others was yes. And so we went to them and said, here's what we can do. And within about 24 hours, we had the issue captured, and we did several things. The one, we allowed them to take a look at our Spanish language advice, and they did want to change some of the wording. We did go with that. We mailed that out to the 1,000,003 so that everybody would know if there was an issue, and we reprinted the ballots at the polling place. And I did not have one person contact me either through email, mail, or a complaint call that they had a confusion, because it wasn't in the yes vote has the effect of it, was up in the title. And so
Karen, what steps can we take to? I mean, you're going to have human error. You are. I mean, that's just the nature of how we do business. You're going to have mistakes here and there, and I accept that. But what can we do, and maybe there's already there, to kind of ensure that perhaps this doesn't happen again, or are there steps that can be taken, or?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gallardo, there are additional steps we put into the proofing. In this particular case, we had everything laid out for the only ballot issue we thought we were going to have, which was 123. And we were waiting and waiting and waiting, and these 3 words were a placeholder, and it was for size and scope. And we got it changed. We missed it on the Spanish language. We do have an additional part now that we're putting in to have additional Spanish language proofing and additional English proofing in what we're doing, so that we don't miss anything. And I think that will prove to be the cure that we need to do this. We don't want to make mistakes, certainly, and we think that will handle it.
And one last question, Karen. I think probably on Tuesday, the city of Phoenix, I'm anticipating, the city of Phoenix is going to have a vacant council seat. I guess everyone's looking at the calendar on when that special election is going to take place, and I think folks are under the belief that it will fall on a possible our November election. How does that work out when you have City of Phoenix conducting an election and then we have our regular statutory constitutional election?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor.
If there is a vacancy.
Supervisor Gallardo, we have at points in time had their questions or their people on our ballot as well. We've been in talks with the city clerk, Chris Meyer, and it depends on how the city, who has a charter, how they read their structure, what they want to do. We are fully prepared, if they want to engage with us, to have that, should there be a council seat vacancy, to have that on our November election. It is far too close to have it on the primary, in my opinion, but I don't know. They can do their own election if they choose to. They could have different polling places. They are self-sufficient, but if they want to come on our ballot, we have given them the times that we need, and however they're going to do it.
And Mr. Chairman, I think that'd be my preference. I know in past, the City of Phoenix may want to go out and do their own thing, but then now you're asking voters to go to 2 locations.
Hold on, Steve.
Yes.
Michelle, you look like you're.
I just wanted to make sure this is in the scope of this agenda item.
Oh, okay.
Related to the canvas of the election.
Good point.
Okay.
Good point. I
All right,
appreciate
so
it.
we'll
We
take
can have a
the other
discussion
question.
off.
Thank you for
Yeah,
the
we can
clarification.
take it
Take it
offline.
offline.
We can
Okay.
take it offline. Thank you.
We're all worried about the city of Phoenix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it
Me,
goes,
Glendale, and Goodyear kid. Okay.
it goes back to voter confusion and how do we prevent that? And that's,
Right.
yeah. So
That's all
anyway, we can do it offline.
Okay. Good.
Good.
Any other questions from?
My only comment would be, Mr. Chairman, I understand where Mr. Gallardo is coming from, but we have plenty of work here in Maricopa County to do, and so I'm not too worried about Phoenix's election. And I appreciate the fact that last Tuesday went so well, and I think we planned accordingly. I'm glad that as we've talked about in the past, we learned, Mr. Chairman, kind of from these errors along the way, and unfortunately that title, that short title was repeated, but it sounds like we're getting mechanisms in place to try to do our best to ensure something like that doesn't happen again. So I thank you and Ms. Purcell for that.
Welcome.
And at any point, Karen, if you elections are extremely over this past year extremely sensitive. If there's a time where you guys want to give us a pre-show of an election upcoming that you think that there's some things that we need to be aware of, ask my office to make schedule. We'll have an informal before so we can talk about some of these issues too, especially if there seems to be anything coming up that could be construed as confusing. You guys should come and see us first. So,
Mr. Chairman, if you're open to it, I'm pleased to make a motion to approve item number 1 on today's agenda, and that would be the canvass returns for the May 17th, 2016 special state election.
okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I would second that motion. I think there was a lot of excitement around this election, and the election went off well. I think voters had an opportunity to vote. I would just remind my good colleague from District 2 that the City of Phoenix election would have an impact on Maricopa County. It's a direct impact, so it's a discussion we got to have. So with that, I am proud to second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Thanks for coming, Elizabeth. You guys, appreciate being here. Next on the agenda under County Attorney, item number 2 is a budget adjustment for the County Attorney Special Revenue Fund. So I don't see any from the County Attorney's office. It looks like it's a net zero, impacting of net zero. So.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item 2 on today's agenda for the budget adjustment for County Attorney Special Revenue Fund.
Thank you, Steve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, that being said, do I have to?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor say aye. Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you for joining us.
But here's the thing. In your district, a voter would